Very welcome back to the International SOS COVID-19 situation update. My name is Franck Baron. I'm in charge of risk management for International SOS, and I'm based in Singapore. You may notice that I'm not in the office today, as we have already activated the COVID-19 BCP for the company. And I'm actually working from home like half of the employees of International SOS here in Singapore. International SOS have invited James, representing March today, to share his insight about the business resilience and business continuity, as well as risk financing aspects of this COVID-19 situation. So if you don't mind, James, let's crack this on and let's go first to the first question. How does COVID-19 differ from past crises such as bird flu or SARS, for instance?
Well, I think the first thing is that it's much more widespread than other events that we've seen in the past. So every part of the world is affected in some way, either directly because they have cases in their country, or through supply chains and disruption to those supply chains. We've seen that across all sorts of industries. The second thing I think that's a bit different is because of its geographical spread and the nature of the virus itself, it has a very long tail. What I mean by that is that it's going to last a long time. We're going to see impacts in communities and businesses for several weeks and several months across the globe. And the last point that makes it different is that there's still an awful lot that we don't know, both about the virus itself, but also business point of view, how governments are actually going to respond. Every government is taking a slightly different approach in how to manage cases. We've seen some very extreme examples of government policy quarantining entire countries in the case of Italy, and that level of uncertainty creates difficulties for business continuity planners and businesses alike in working out how to respond to the event.
Thank you very much, James. And I think that to concur to your point, the reliance on working with your people to activate the business continuity planning is very important. And as we are talking about an outbreak, it does have an impact, obviously, on employees, hence the need to make sure that the health and safety of people are well taken care of in this situation. Thank you very much for this, James. Moving on to the next aspect we wanted to address with you today. What are the challenges that are faced by businesses when it comes to the planning, the response, and hopefully later on the recovery from COVID-19?
Well, I think there are four main challenges that businesses are facing, and the first is all about people. And you said it yourself in your introduction. This is first and foremost a public health emergency. So this is all about protecting people and making sure that people are safe. So organisations' duty of care to make sure that their plans are adequate in managing the health and welfare of staff. And what I've seen is that businesses are spending a lot of time in communicating to staff on what is happening, what the current situation is, and how the business is responding. And interestingly, what I've seen is that the level of anxiety that's created as a result of this virus is in some cases more damaging to businesses than the actual physical effects of the event. So communicating with staff and being open and honest about what is happening at a time when we don't really know some of the facts is really important. The second challenge is all around supply chains. I mentioned it in my first answer. Managing the security of our supply chains in response to this event is going to be a significant challenge for many businesses. We've seen it in the automotive industry when the first outbreaks happened in Asia, where companies were closing factories because of the way that their supply chains work. And My concern is that typically many businesses are unsighted on their vulnerabilities within their supply chain. They may know who their key suppliers are, their first sort of primary level of suppliers, but actually they don't know any detail beyond that. So who are your key suppliers, and how vulnerable are they to this outbreak is an issue that organizations need to get to grips with. The third challenge is linked to my earlier answer about the length of time that this event is going to play out for. So the challenge of maintaining a consistent response to events is going to be difficult. So, like you're working at home at the moment. You have been for a while. That could have quite negative impacts, both on productivity in the long term, on business, and also the mental health of staff who are, go from a situation where they're working day to day with people they've known for many years, and then into a much more isolated setting at home. So how do you keep staff engaged and able to carry on working? The fourth point is around the economic impacts of what we're seeing. There's lots of discussion going on at the moment about potential global economic impacts of the event. Whether or not that will lead to a recession across the globe, I think is up for discussion. But what I do think, however, is that this situation is quite different to when we last had a big economic shock in 2008. The health of the global economy is arguably better than it was in 2008. So that might mean if we do have a recession, that the recovery might be a little bit quicker. But time will tell as to whether that's the case.
Thank you, James. And I would like to, all your points were obviously very valid and very relevant, but I would like to insist on the emotional and mental aspect of this situation. And I think that when it comes to people's safety and the comfort of people, even if when you trigger a BCP plan, like the way I'm doing it right now, working from home, it's something that needs to be considered in supporting people. Moving now to the information piece of it. Is advice from public sources consistent enough for you when it comes to global organizations so that they can have a relevant approach to a situation like this? And if not, how should global organization go about managing this to have a robust approach?
Yeah, very good question, because information management in a situation like this for a global organization is really important. It is in any crisis, but more so for something as widespread as this. And what we're seeing is that there is a significant amount of variance in both the quality and the detail of the advice that's being given by different governments and other official groups. I don't think we'll ever get to a position where we will have a consistent view across the globe and a consistent set of policies in how to deal with what is happening, because each government has their very own approach that is bespoke to the communities that they serve. Now that variance in information at best causes some confusion, particularly in global businesses, and a bit of an inconvenience when you're thinking about putting in place recovery plans. But at worst, it could mean businesses putting in place policies that later on they find out aren't really the right kind of responses, particularly when you're thinking about different legal responsibilities in the territories that an organisation operates in. So I think each organisation needs to decide for itself what sources of information it trusts the most. And there are people like the World Health Organization that are a good place to start for some of the basic facts and details about confirmed cases. So you need to find a source that you trust that can provide a baseline set of information for you to build your plans upon. And then overlay on top of that views from your occupational health advisors. And most global organizations will have some sort of third party that is available to provide advice on health matters. I'm working with a handful of clients that are placing a lot of reliance on those organizations as trusted advisors. Those organizations can help you tailor some of the government advice to the individual industry you're working in. For example, health advice in a retail environment is going to look very different to health advice in an office environment. You can't send your workers in a shop home to work from home like you are, for example. And then the third thing, third consideration to make is establishing whether the way that your organization operates has an influence over what kind of advice you should be taking from different sources. So that could be things like your organization operating in some of the higher risk locations. And in some of those high risk locations, you might have some really critical processes. You probably want to pay a little bit more attention to what's going on in those parts of the world and increase your level of surveillance, maybe even increase your level of resilience planning in those parts of the business to make sure that there's no disruption. So a combination of a good baseline source of information, some health advice from some trusted advisors, and then overlaying that with a view of how your organization operates and where it operates is important.
Thank you, James. I think you are highlighting here very crucial points when it comes to managing information for this situation, and I would like to insist also here on in terms of making sure that the source of information organizations are going to rely on are providing the true capabilities in terms of managing the cross-border aspects of this, because it's obviously it's a global supply chain today with plenty of different countries being impacted. In addition to the fact that you need to make sure that your source of information or your advisor is providing you with the expertise from the ground, because for each and every country or region there is a specific situation to be considered, and obviously to make sure that the information is updated, and I would say also neutralized, so that it's really not related to the agenda of a specific organization or country, but really providing the level of information needed for organization to make informed decision at the end. Moving to an important aspect of this whole business resilience topic of today, it's the risk financing aspect of it. So is insurance available to help organization to protect their operations and their business?
Yeah, very, very good question, and a question that a lot of our clients are asking, Marsh, right now. It's a yes and no answer. There are products available, and there are some very good specific insurance products available that cover this type of event. And Marsh have been working with some insurers to develop some of those. But as you would imagine, if you haven't already got that cover, you're very, very unlikely, if not completely unlikely, to get any cover for this particular outbreak, because it's with us now. The risk is here, so an insurer is not likely to want to take that risk. There may also, however, be some other levels of cover, insurance cover, that the organisation may have already purchased. So, for example, if your organisation runs a lot of events, there's event cancellation insurance, which can come with clauses relating to infectious diseases. Often, what we're seeing, organisations have taken those out of their policy for price reasons. So it's worth going into those policies and checking what you've got. And there may also be some cover under business interruption policies. But there's a parallel here, I think, with what we saw with with terrorism insurance after 9/11, which up until that point tended to be baked into other insurance policies. But after that point, the risk appetite of the insurance industry changed, and they wanted organisations to put in place specific policies for terrorism-related risks. That could happen with this particular type of risk in the future, given the global scale of events and the amount of cost that this is likely to cause for businesses. Really, if you don't know whether you're covered or not through your existing insurance, you need to dig out your insurance policies. You need to pick up the telephone to your insurance broker, if you have one, and ask for some advice.
Thank you very much. I think it's to concur to your point. I think that insurance is obviously part of the solution, but it's not the only solution to cope with a business impact of an event of this magnitude, and also concurring to your recommendation about doing some COVID-19 claims stress testing of our own insurance coverage, just to make sure that part of the financial consequences can be potentially covered by insurance coverage. James, thank you very much for this. All your points are really highlighting the importance for organization to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19 situation in order to protect, obviously, employees, and also to manage the resilience aspect for the respective business of global organization. That was very critical to us, and thank you very much for your insight during this COVID-19 situation update with you. That's all from us for today, I would say. But I'm going to thank you again, James and Marsh, for your time and your expertise during this situation update. As the situation continues to evolve, obviously, do not hesitate to reach out to us for updates, advice, and assistance when it comes to the COVID-19 situation. And thank you very much for joining us and hearing us today. Thank you.